Okay, we've got this another example of a geometric series, and we're told here a car bought for 35,000 depreciates by 12% per annum. Now we're asked to find its value after 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. We're also asked to write down the value of the car as a sequence, and then we're asked to find the car's worth after 10 years. And lastly, we're asked to find the value of the car when it drop. Well, sorry, when will the value of the car drop below 15,000? And we need to answer that to the nearest year. Now, first thing here, let's begin with part A. What we want to do is we want to explore each of these years. So the first year, we just need to understand what's happening here. So when we do this, this is going to be 35,000. We're going to minus 35,000, and that's going to be times the rate, which is 0.12. So what this does is it's going to set up this pattern over here, and this is going to be 35,000 of 1 less than 0.12. I'm just trying to reorganize this in a slightly different way to help me establish the pattern. Okay, and this is going to be 35,000 times 0.88. And so when I work this out, this is going to give me 30,800. So that's going to be the first response we get in the first year. So what we then want to do is we want to look at the second year. And whenever you're dealing with something like this, it's always good to look at the first three terms to help you establish your pattern. And that's what this question is getting us to do. So in this one here, it's going to be 30,800 because that's the value we had at the end of the first year. So that's going to be our starting point. This is going to be minus 30,800 times by 0.12. Again, let's factorize this a little bit, just like we did in the step above. So in this case, we're going to have 1 minus 0.12. And as we go to make this a bit further, that's going to be 0.88. And when we work out this answer, we get 27,104 as our answer. So from here, let's move on to the third year now. We've got the third year. Okay, this one is going to start with 27,104 minus 27,104 times by 0.12. In this case here, this is going to be 27,104 bracket 1 minus 0.12, which is 27,104, 0.88. And lastly, this one's going to end up being 23,851.52. Okay, so we're starting to establish the pattern we've got here. Now from here, we can move on to start to write this as a sequence here really, really easily. So if we just go back up a bit, we can see the first year gives us 3,0800. That's going to be the first year. Then we have a comma because we're dealing with a sequence rather than a series. Then the second year is 27,104. Then third year gives us 23,851.52. And then that would continue on indefinitely. But now we've got the pattern here. We're starting to establish things with how they're going to work. Now, from here, we want to try and unpack some things from this question so that we can move on to the next parts. So with the next part being 10 years, those parts we want to unpack is we want to be unpacking, first of all, what is the first number in this sequence? So in this case, it's 30,800. So we've got that aspect of it here. Now, from the work we've done above already, we've already worked out the rate because we could see that we had 0.88 continually reappearing in each of these. So that's going to be our rate in this case. Now, lastly, for this question in particular, we have an n as well, which we have. In this case, it's going to be 10 years. So now what we need to do is we need to be able to unpack this by using the terms equation for our sequence here. So that's going to be t of n is equal to a to the r to the power of n minus 1. So this here is what we're going to use to help us work out this next part. We've got the information here already, so it's just a matter of substituting this in now. So in our case, we've got T10 because we're finding the 10th term in this case. So that's going to be equal to 30,800. We're going to have our rate of 0.88. And in this case here, we've got 10 minus 1. So simplifying this a little bit to make it a bit easier before we type into our calculator to get the answer, that's going to be to the power of 9. And so now as we work this out, we've got T10, and that's going to be equal to 9,747 and 53 cents. So there we go, worked it out for 10 years. Okay, from this, what we can move on to part D now. And in this case, we're asked when it has dropped below 15,000. So in this aspect, as we work through this, we need to understand what's being asked of us here. And remember, we need to do this to the nearest year as well. So one key thing is if it's below 15,000, this is going to turn it into an inequality. And so we have T of n less than 50,000. That's what we're trying to work out here. Now we've got other information already from the previous questions. We know our A is 30,800. We know our R is 0.88. Now in this case here, the N is an unknown. That's what we've got to calculate here. And that's what we're going to be working through in this aspect. Okay, so as we set this question up, we're going to have 30,800 using the formula we've been using in the previous questions of Tn equals AR to the power of n minus 1. So to set that aspect of up first, and now rather than equals to, it's going to be less than 15,000. Now, as we go about this, we do want to reorganize this. So I'm going to divide both sides by 30,800. So as we go about that, we end up with 0.88 to the power of n minus 1 less than, and I'm going to put this in a fraction here. You can put it as a decimal as well. I'm just keeping it as a fraction. So I work through this. So I'm putting it in its simplest form as well to be able to calculate this. Now from this aspect, because we've got indices we're dealing with, the easiest thing to do is to incorporate logs. So I'm going to have ln of 0.88 to the power of n minus 1, and that's going to be less than ln of 75 over 154. Now, other aspects of this is I want to apply my log laws. So this n minus 1 can come down the front, and so that means we can make n the subject now. We have n minus 1 in brackets, ln of 0.88, and that's going to be less than ln of 75 over 154. Now, I'm going to divide both sides here by ln of 0.88, divide by ln of 0.88. Now, one key aspect here, as we do this division, the ln of 0.88 gives us a negative answer. So remember, when you are dividing or multiplying different sides of the inequality by a negative number, the sign changes direction here. So that's what's about to take place here. So as a result, I now have n minus 1. That is going to be greater than now ln of 75 over 154 all over ln of 0.88. And now lastly, n is greater than ln of 75 over 154 all over ln of 0.88. And I'm going to add that 1 to this side as well. So now as we go through this and calculate this, what we find out is n is greater than 6.63. But in order to answer this properly, we need to answer into whole numbers, so to the nearest year. So then it's going to take, it will take approximately, remember to always write your responses in a sentence at the end to make it clear that you've understood the question. So it's going to be 7 years because we've got to round it up for the value to drop below 15,000.